Okay, we're going to look at one special case of solving quadratics. If I think about this, if x squared equals 49, then what does x have to equal? I think everybody sort of naturally says that 7 squared is going to equal 49. So x must equal 7. But you also have to think about the fact that when I take a negative number and square it, a negative times negative is also a positive. So x can also equal negative 7. So if I look at things like x squared equals 100, I have to remember to say that x equals 10, or x also equals negative 10. Same thing with x squared equals 4, then x can equal 2, or x can equal negative 2. So the one thing that we've got to remember when we're solving quadratic equations with square roots is that once you get the squared term on one side, get everything else on the other side, then all you have to do is take the square root of both sides. But you have to remember that square roots have positive and negative number answers. So let's do a couple examples. So if I'm doing this one, 3x squared plus 5 equals 41, I'm going to solve this to get the x squared by itself. So I'm going to subtract 5. I'm going to divide by 3. And when I do this step of taking the square root, I'm going to get x equals plus or minus square root of 12. Okay, the important part is that we remember the plus and minus. The other thing we also want to remember is that we don't want to leave any perfect squares under the square root. So I would remember that this is like saying 4 times 3, which I could then think of as square root of 4 times square root of 3. So if I wanted to write this in its simplest form, with no perfect squares under the radical, I would say x equals, and I have this plus or minus still here, plus or minus 2 times square root of 3. And that would be my simplest answer, and there are two different answers. Just an application of that. If I think about dropping an object, and this is specific to Earth, the height of a dropped object after t seconds is modeled by this equation, h equals negative 16 t squared plus h sub 0. The h sub 0 is the initial height of the object, and this negative 16 comes from the gravitational pull on Earth. So I'm going to give you an example later on.